Hello again. So I'm making the most of my daylight savings time. I had to run to town. These are all the same videos on the same day. Uh, by the way, if you find these videos helpful, I always forget to say this because I'm not real big on this, but if you think my videos are helpful, please like, share, and subscribe so that more people can get this information if it's any help or entertainment. Today I was going to talk about, I've already talked about my garden quite a bit. I'm going to talk about children and the garden. So having a garden and having children is an excellent opportunity for parents to teach their children work ethic. My father was raised, his parents were the World War I generation. He was the youngest of 10 children on a farm. And that generation was old school. They were taught that they helped out to help support the family and had to help with the chores as soon as they were able to. So whether it was collecting eggs from the chicken coop or cleaning out the chicken coop or scooping out the hog pens or walking the beans or even walking the corn, which nobody does, but Grandpa had them do because he had so many kids. Whatever it is, harvesting the wheat and baling the hay or the straw or whatever. Children help with all that stuff on the farm. They help support and feed themselves. During the Great Depression, Grandpa had to gamble and play snooker. He was actually pretty good at it to help feed the kids because they were so short of money and they couldn't get enough money for their farm products. So definitely having that stuff helped to feed the family, but you need other things too. You don't just survive on your own food and that's it. You have to buy other things. Well, if you haven't noticed, the children of today have no solid work ethic and they don't know how to manage their money. They don't know. I struggle with that too at times because I was treated much softer than my parents were growing up, at least my father's family. And kids today don't have much backbone or work ethic. My father brought me up old school, so his family, he got switched, smacked in the face if he backtalked, all that good stuff. My father did the same with me, except he didn't use a switch. He used a belt or his bare hand. I did get smacked upside the head if I talked smack or was disrespectful. But you learn real quick that way. My mom's dad, my grandfather on my mom's side, he was kind of a drill sergeant to work with. He was very, very loving and gentle otherwise, but when you worked with him, if you were screwing up, he would bark at you like a drill sergeant and make you feel about that big. But the thing with all this is that you learn to respect authority and you learn to have a thick skin and you learn work ethic and you learn to take pride in your work and you learn to enjoy your work. My father made a game out of work. He would get my brother and I to race. And we had to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, fold papers, throw them. Dad had like 14 routes at one point. He had 11 most of the time I was growing up. And so we had a lot of paper routes. We had to get up at 2 a.m., 2:30, and had to be done by 6 or 7, no matter what the weather was. And that toughened us up quite a bit. Dad was not easy on us. And at the same time, he made a game out of it. And we listened to the radio and sang songs. And, he'd stop halfway done with the routes and get us chocolate milk and donuts at a gas station, all-night gas station or convenience store. And those are some of my fondest memories as an adult. Now, as a child, I wasn't too keen on it because I was the only kid that I knew anywhere that did that kind of work, But Dad was old school. And I get it now. I didn't get it then, but I get it. I definitely get it now. My kids don't get it. My kids, I was not nearly as harsh on them as my father was on me or his father was on him. My kids thought that the spankings and the scary treatment that I would give them when they would get way out of line and disrespectful they thought that was abuse, and they complained about it, and they still don't like it very much if I bark at them. Most kids today they think that parents can be equals, and they want to be their best friend, and they want to call them by their first name, or they demand and expect that they come and visit them instead of the kids go visit the parents, and that's all nonsense. That's not orthodox. That's not traditional. And you see how well it's working in our society. Our society it's breaking down. The family structure is breaking down. Children are disrespectful. They have no work ethic. In schools, when I went to school, you got homework. The kids today don't seem to get any homework. One of the kids I had didn't even know what the they didn't even know what the Pledge of Allegiance was, which blew my mind. They don't know history. I talk about history. They don't know a lot of history. Not all my kids. Some of my kids like history and they study it on their own. But I mean, I'm talking about as far as school goes. They don't understand how the civics work, how our government works. This is not by accident. This is all Marxism. Which, if people don't wake up, we're going to have the Gulag of Archipelago, and we're all going to be producing the gross national product from prison instead of the traditional capitalist way. And Russia's repented of that. They've gotten away from the gulags. They're not perfect by any stretch. I'm not a fan of communism, but Russia's learned their lesson to some degree, not completely, but some of it. And they're trying to come out of that, and here the United States is going to that, it looks like. So you may find yourself, or I may find myself in a gulag someday if things don't turn around here pretty soon. But the whole world's kind of going down the toilet, it looks like, which is why I'm doing these videos about lessons I've learned in life and how to make your home a positive oasis away from that. And kind of lead by example, God willing, God's grace. So the point of this conversation is that the garden is a wonderful way of teaching your children this. So I went to town to get some pine shavings for my chicken coop and some straw and some other things. And while I went to town, I offered them $5 if they wanted to clean out the chicken coop and put it in the wheelbarrow, which is like a 15-minute job. Or they could finish raking the leaves out of the front yard and make $5 each. Or they could do both. They decided they wanted to do the leaf raking in the front yard because they wanted to make a big pile and play in it. I said, okay, but here's the deal. If you want to play in the leaves, that's fine, but make sure they stay behind the garage where I'm filling up the compost bins, and you can do that, and I'll pay you $5. And if you want to make $10 each, you can do the chicken coop too. If not, that's fine. You don't have to do any of it if you don't want to. But it saves me a lot of time and effort in my gardening, and it teaches them some work ethic and money management. I make my son pay for his own cell phone. I make my son pay for his he broke his bike by being careless with it, so I made him pay for his new bike by doing chores. Now, in the process of doing that, I'm teaching him about debt and what it means to become a slave to debt, and how to learn to stay out of debt, and lots of lessons, how to save up his money for things that he wants to buy. There's lots of lessons that can be learned from these experiences that a lot of kids don't learn. Their parents just don't teach them, and their parents don't live that example to begin with. So I'm definitely trying to teach my children the old school ways, and I think it's vitally important, because the way things are now, the government's trying to be mommy and daddy, and they're breaking up the family, and everything's falling apart. And we see it in society, the fatherless children, and the gangs, and everybody's going to prison, and the morality is breaking down, and there's all kinds of weird warpedness is going on, and it's turning into violence and the breakdown of our whole system. So I don't think that's by accident. I think it's Marxism, as I've said, and people got to wake up, or they're going to lose it. And if we lose it, then we're going to have to adjust, right? You're going to have to adjust. I don't think we're there yet, but it's coming if it doesn't change soon. So I recommend gardening for a variety of reasons. It doesn't have to be a huge, big production like I'm doing, but every little bit helps. And if you decide you need to make it a big production in order to help support your family, because inflation goes off the rails like it's done historically multiple times in different countries, then you're going to wish you had a big garden to help feed your family, and you're going to wish you had some experience doing it. And I am trying to help people who have no experience, who live in suburbia, figure out how to do that very cheaply and simply. So I hope it helps by God's grace, and I hope people learn from their ancestors about having a little bit thicker skin, being a little bit tougher, and thinking about things a little bit more, thinking about why our ancestors did things the way they did, and study history so we don't repeat it. That would be helpful. Look at Russia, look at what they've done, look how that went. Germany, same thing. A lot of these other countries that didn't learn lessons from history, and hopefully America will pull themselves out of this rut that we're in and just get things back on track, God willing. This is not political. I'm not picking any sides politics wise. I don't care who does it, what party. Both parties have gone off the rails as far as traditional constitution and history of our country, and I hope they get it straightened out. So I'm not a big activist. I'm just sharing my culture, and there's more than one way to skin a cat. You can do things however you want and have your own culture doing it. It's fine. God's will be done. So, my rambling thoughts. I'm home now, so I'm going to get the car unloaded and get back to work on my garden. It's a lesson for my children and grandchildren on why they were raised the way they were raised by me, and food for thought when they raise their own children and grandchildren. So, if the world lasts that long. God bless. Over and out.